This is how to install Unity Editor using Unity Hub and how to open, update, and download the CADModelViewer project using the repository at GitHub. First, you're going to want to go to unity.com/download, and you can just search on Google Unity Hub and you should find this web page. For me, I'm on Windows, so I'm just going to click download for Windows up here. But there's also, a version for Windows, Mac, and Linux. There's special instructions for Linux. You can just click that and follow whatever it says. So I'm going to do download for Windows. I'm going to go to my desktop just because it's the easiest. You can put this wherever you want, your downloads folder or whatever. I'm going to go ahead and run it. Here's the license agreement. I'm just going to hit agree. It automatically found where my previous installation is at, which is exactly where I want to install it. You can install it wherever you want, any drive, anywhere. Gonna hit install, and it shouldn't take too long to install. Once it installs, it's gonna ask if you want to run it. Whenever you hit finish, just hit run Unity, make sure this is checked, or you can just double click it. It adds a shortcut on your desktop. Okay, just gonna do it for private networks, for firewall. Okay, you're gonna see all my projects here. You shouldn't see any projects yourself unless you already have some on your computer that you've opened in the past. First, we're going to have to install an editor before we can even open a project. So we're going to go to installs, and in the top right there is install editor, and then we're going to come over to archive, and we're going to click visit our, you see it says visit our download archive. You can click download archive. This will open the Unity editor download archive. It's unity.com/releases/editor/archive. You can probably also Google this, just search Unity archives or something like that. And you're going to want to go to the 2021 versions. And we're going to scroll down. You're going to want to install 2021.3.5 because that's the version we're using. You're just going to click Unity Hub button. And here it's going to ask if you want to open it using the Unity Hub application. You're going to want to click Open Unity Hub. I'm going to click Cancel because I already have it installed. For this tutorial, I'm just going to go ahead and show what it'll say with another editor version. So there it goes. Here, there's Dev Tools. With Microsoft Visual Studio. We do not need this. There might be a newer version in the future, like 2021 or 2023, I think. You don't need it. You can get it if you want something to edit code with, but if you're not editing code and you don't already have an editor or something like that, you don't really need it. Currently, we have a Windows build and an Android build for CADModelViewer. We haven't actually built to iOS or Linux or Mac. So since we're on Windows, it already has support for Windows, but we need to get Android build support. So we're going to select Android build support and click continue. I'm not going to click continue. I'm just going to close this out since I already have an editor and the correct one. Okay. Once we started the download, it should open this tab and start showing your download progress. Once it is finished, you should have a full installation on the install section. It should say 2021.3.5 F1 LTS. Now, we need the project. You still don't have any projects. So you're going to need to go to GitHub. Currently the GitHub repository is github.com/greenmatthew/CADModelViewer. This might change in the future. Wherever the repository is, just go there on GitHub. You're going to go to code, and we have multiple options for how to download and update the project. You can use Git in a command line interface. You can use GitHub Desktop, you can use Visual Studio, or you can just manually download the zip. The two I recommend are GitHub Desktop and zip for anybody who is not comfortable using a command line interface with Git. I've never actually used GitHub Desktop. You can just search for tutorial on how to use GitHub Desktop. It shouldn't be that hard because it has a nice like GUI interface for you to work with. With command line interface, you kind of have to remember the commands. For this, we are just going to download the zip, as that's the easiest to do. But I would definitely recommend GitHub Desktop. Just click download zip. I'm going to download it to my desktop, and then it's going to start downloading, and we'll come back once it's done downloading. Okay, it's done downloading. We are going to go back to my desktop, and we are going to extract all using WinRAR. You can also use 7-zip. You can just download those from a quick Google search if you don't already have them. There we go. So I'm pretty sure you can unzip it using Windows. Yeah, actually, I think that's what I did, actually. Extract all was Windows. Okay, now that this is finishing up, I'd just like to say that if you use GitHub Desktop, it'd probably be faster, just because it wouldn't have to extract. And yeah, we got the repository right here. And also GitHub Desktop would be easier to update, because it would only download the new or modified files. It wouldn't download the whole repository again. That's the benefit of using Git instead of the zips. Alright, go back to Unity Hub. You're going to add project from disk. You're going to go to wherever we downloaded the repository, and we're going to click the root folder. Now, for some reason, the zip actually, does the same file name twice, so we're going to go to the inside CADModelViewer -master. We're going to select this folder, and we're going to click Add Project. Now we're going to open it, and Unity Editor will have to do a few things like resolving packages and importing all the assets, and this might take a little while, so we'll be back once that is done. Okay, now that the project is open, it should look different than what I have here. So I'm going to swap to the default layout. That was my own custom one I made. This is the default layout of Unity. You're going to notice there is a shader error. This is just from most likely the SteamVR or Oculus packages that have been installed to the project. Nothing that you can really do about it other than getting rid of the assets. It's not a big deal though. There's also a decent amount of warnings and stuff. None of this really matters. Don't worry about it. Just you can clear it out or leave it. It doesn't matter. Now you'll notice we're just on an untitled scene. Maybe there's nothing here. We want to go to the project tab down here. We're going to go to assets and then scenes, and then we want to open the main scene by double clicking, or you can just do right click open. Okay, now we're kind of far away, from the actual scene. You could just zoom in, but instead I'm going to click on models. I'm going to select models. I'm going to click F and that focuses. I'm going to hit it again to focus on it even more. And you can kind of notice there's something weird going on with the camera. It's in isomorphic display instead of a perspective display. So we're going to click on here and that should change it to perspective. You can see you can change it between isomorphic and perspective. Before it said back, it was just because it was like perfectly lined up with this. Yeah. But yeah, we just want it on perspective because that's generally how the player would see in the actual VR headset. It's kind of hard to tell what's going on because you have these little gizmos. So to switch from this to a better view, you can actually go to the game tab here. And this is actually what the user will see whenever they play the app, or if you play it inside the editor, which we'll do here in a second. One thing to note, the player will not actually spawn right here on SteamVR if you're using the room scale setting. If you're doing standing or sitting VR with SteamVR, it should just spawn you here. But specifically room scale, it'll be relative to wherever the center of your play space is, which we can see here. So let's put on my headset here. You can see I'm staring at the wall. This is what I was talking about. My position in the room. This is away from the center of the play area. Play area is over there. The center is, at least. So that's why I added the fact that you can hit the B button on SteamVR and it resets the camera position. So yeah, and you can even exit the editor or like stop playing it in the editor if you do this, but the normal way you do it is just to hit this play button up here. One last thing, if you're ever struggling to play the game in the editor or build the app or make a lesson and it's giving you some errors, there's a possibility that it is set to the wrong settings. It might be set to Android, or maybe it's set for Windows, Mac, or Linux, but some of the other settings are incorrect for SteamVR if you're trying to work with SteamVR, or maybe you're working with Oculus or something like that. Sometimes it just isn't on the right one. When you open the project, maybe the last time the repo was pushed, they were on Android for Oculus. And you want to be on Windows for SteamVR. Well, you can quickly fix this problem by coming to a tool I built into the editor that lets you switch between platforms and operating systems. So you just come to this platform sub-menu at the top, and it'll drop down, and you can switch from SteamVR for Windows. And you'll see a little message here. Sometimes this doesn't always work correctly. So sometimes you have to restart the editor or do it another time or two. But this can fix some problems you might run into whenever there's some compilation errors down here. There is a built-in way to switch between operating systems in Unity Editor natively, but we don't use this because the fact that multiple operating systems use different platforms. So for instance, we could build for Oculus Windows, we could also build for SteamVR for Windows, and then also Oculus Android and Google Cardboard Android. These have different settings. Oculus Android needs different settings than Google Cardboard Android.